Good morning, everyone. Jer here from The View on Monday, the 7th of November with some Leeds news. And I hope everyone's had a fantastic weekend and you did some stuff that didn't involve Leeds trying to emotionally break you as a human being or just wreck your weekend all up. Just a mad one. Another mad weekend. Just crazy. What's it like to be a fan of a mid-table team that doesn't do anything every season? Madness. But we'll get to that. So how we're going to break today's video down is this. Start off with the news because there's a little bit of news floating around, and then we're going to get into the match review. I'm going to get through the news pretty quick so we can spend some time talking about the game because that's, I think, what everyone wants to talk about. So let's just fly through it real quick. Start off with some ingoings, and coming from Fabrizio Romano, Leeds are being linked with Marseille midfielder Pape Gueye, or Guy. Romano says that this is going to be one of the ones to watch for 2023. The 23-year-old midfielder who plays at Marseille having a really good season. And Romano says the situation is pretty quiet for now, but that he knows that Leeds are interested and don't expect this to stay quiet for long. He said Leeds are an admirer of the player amongst other clubs, but currently nobody's made a move. Everyone's just keeping an eye on him. But Romano reckons could be a big player. George Hall, on the other end of the spectrum, the 18-year-old, is being linked again with Leeds United. Was linked during the summer with Leeds, being linked again with Leeds. The main reason he's looking to get away from Birmingham is game time, which is an odd one because he won't go into the Leeds first team. He's not currently playing in the Birmingham first team. George Hall has made 15 appearances but only 5 starts for Birmingham, and that is the main reason why he's looking to move on. You would imagine that if Leeds do bring him in, he will likely go into the under-21 team along with the other kind of rising stars that are there to fill the gaps left by the players that have stepped into the first team, who were great at the weekend. We'll get to them. Moving on to bigger players then, Rafael Guerreiro, who has been linked with Leeds just at the back end of the summer transfer window. The Dortmund left back is approaching the end of his contract at the end of 2023, and Leeds, amongst other clubs, look likely to make their move in January. According to several places, the Go Football Insider is the main one, Leeds have planned an approach by Victor Orta for the player in January. Leeds are firm admirers of the fullback. He is out of contract, as I said, in 2023, and a new deal negotiations haven't been going well and don't look likely. Juventus are said to be the other player that are interested in the left back as well. Will be a massive signing for Leeds and would definitely help us fix one, if not 2 positions in one go. Bring Guerreiro in there, put Stroke in centre half. And we're all happy. Speaking of Victor Orta, and again, I'm going to try and be balanced on this kind of stuff. I don't like hyperbole. I don't like overreaction. So we'll try and be balanced on this. Victor Orta has apologised for his reaction after the game, which was caught on camera. Victor was seen looking into the barrel of a camera and shouting "sack the board," ironically, after some of the abuse that he's gotten so far this season. He has come out and said that he apologises to Leeds fans and will try to keep his emotions in check going forward. He said that he's a human after all, and the past few months have been very hard for him and his family. Especially considering the level of abuse that he has received in person, in writing and by phone after his number was deliberately leaked out, which I don't agree with. Angus Kinnear also spoke about in the programme notes for the game about his abuse that he's been getting slightly. He said he loves and respects the Leeds fans and he has thanked them for creating one of the best atmospheres in the Premier League. We don't have that atmosphere without the Leeds fans creating it, so he's also weighed in. The Orta thing is a funny one for me because if I was in his shoes and the amount of abuse he's gotten, I'm absolutely waiting for my moment to go, you know, I was right and you were wrong. I've said this morning on Twitter, I've had conversations with people. For every John Kevin August stan, there is a Sam Greenwood, Joe Gallagher, Rafinha. It's balanced. For every awful signing he's made and money he's wasted on players, he's brought in some absolute buttes as well. So you've got to keep this balance. There are very few sporting directors of the calibre of Victor Orta or of the connections of Victor Orta out there. Do I believe he should be sacked for this? No. He reacted to something. I mean, if you're getting abuse all the time and you get your moment for your one-up, what are you going to do? You're going to react to it, aren't you? Everyone always has a problem with a reaction that people have, but no one ever asks about the cause of the reaction. Was it valid? Was it justified? Leaking a person's phone number out so he can be abused by phone calls is absolutely, there was no justification for it at all, and I would be totally against that kind of crap. By all means, when he's in the ground, let your voices be heard and tell him how you feel. Look, I'm not a huge Victor Orta fan, but I do see the merits of having him at the club. I do see a problem trying to replace him with someone of that calibre. We'll see it there. Moving on to better stuff. The under-21s are in action today at 1 o'clock, so roughly around the time this video goes out, will be in action in Premier League 2 Division 2 at home at Thorpe Arch to Newcastle at 1 p.m. kickoff. Expect a young side out today, considering the amount of involvement that was with the first team. Matteo Joseph obviously made the bench the first team as well the weekend. Will he be involved? I would imagine so, but we'll wait and see. And finally, with the news segment, just say a massive happy birthday yesterday to Irish and Leeds legend John Giles, who turned 82. Still doing well, John. Watch on News Talk all the time. So John's doing great to see it. That's the bit of the news. We're going to move on now to the match review. See you in a second. Right, so match review time. Where do we start with this? Because that was a roller coaster of emotion. Doesn't encapsulate everything that was for all of us. That was just, we went from ecstatic, happy, what a start, to sack the manager, sack the board at half time, to an incredible victory and a great win, a great turnaround and show character. And I suppose to break down, I wrote down my notes on this, and my overall notes on this were just simple. It was like mental, just mad, and they're gonna kill me. They're gonna try and kill me, as well as everybody else. I think Phil Hayes summed that up on Twitter as well with a brilliant tweet. So yeah, let's talk about the first half. And I've watched the game back because I'm a sadist, so I watched it again last night. I'm not. Just to kind of get a perspective, was it the first half as bad as I thought it was, or was I just overly emotional through that first half? And I think I'm leaning towards being slightly over emotional in the first half. I watched it back, and in the first 17 minutes of the game, we're actually pretty good. We do concede in that 17 minutes, the equaliser, but we're really good. I think the passing was good, the pressing was very strong, the work was hard, the lads were running hard, which is great to see. Then there's the mistake at the back, and the mistake at the back is a tricky one because Liam Cooper gets pulled out of position. Not by any fault of his own, but just by the way the counter-attack broke down. He goes across the far side. And again, that has a knock-on effect that everyone else has to push across, and Rasmus Christensen gets tucked all the way in. Mark Rock is coming in late, and the ball comes over to the back post for a very, very easy. And that's the problem with the Red Bull, Jesse Marsh, narrow system. We have been caught at the back post, I don't know how many times. Leeds United, the FC data. Someone should ask Edu FC data. How many goals have Leeds conceded at the back post so far this season? Because it's been a lot. And it all comes from this system. And it's an area that needs to be addressed for me. If Christensen is going to get pulled in, then I expect Jack Harrison to come back and cover the winger or the fullback. And that's not happening. It didn't happen last week with Somerville. Again, you're splitting hairs in the criticism. The defensive shape is right, and that shouldn't have to happen in the first place, but it does. And then it's pretty scrappy for about 20 minutes. It's pretty crap, to be honest, for about 20 minutes. The passing's poor, and we've been guilty of that this season at times. Sloppy, giving the ball away, pressings in ones and twos and not pressing as a unit again. That starts to happen. The energy levels dropped a bit. And then the last 5 minutes towards the half, I thought we were okay again. I thought we looked to try and get back on the front foot. I thought we were trying to get back on the ball, and it looked okay. And then 2 minutes into the second half, you're 3-1 down. With a really nice finish, to be fair, but again, a counter-attack. We've been saying since the Brisbane game in pre-season, Leeds are susceptible to goals on the counter-attack. When we overcommit, we get caught. And it's happened. Brisbane, Aston Villa happened in pre-season against, it was a Cagliari pre-season game, happened against them as well. It's happened in the league this season. Jesse Marsh was asked by Gary Lineker on BBC Match of the Day about this, about the counter-attack, and he said that he doesn't see it as a weakness in the team. He actually sees it as a case that we're not being aggressive enough in certain areas and allowing them to get out. But that's fine, but players do get tired in moments. You know, there's only so much sprinting in the short area you can do before you need a couple of seconds to catch your breath, and that creates gaps, and you can break out. So it's an area for me that we need to look at and get right. Same with the back line. I thought, again, saying it the way I've said it before on the podcast, is Leeds at times look like two separate teams to me. There's a defensive team, the back four and the one in front, which at times this season have looked really, really poor and really, really weak and very championshipy. And then you have the front team, the attacking side of our game, including our fullbacks, which looks excellent, looks really dangerous, looks really, really good. And it's just this balance of we're missing that. Jesse's talking about missing consistency, and that's it for me. It's getting that back line steadier and calmer. But the second half happened, and Jesus, didn't happen. It really did. What a fight back. What an incredible performance. Sam Greenwood's just growing and growing in the role that he's in at the moment. And he comes off the bench and was fantastic. There's a couple of little bits just to be mindful of. He swipes at a few balls from the edge of our box. I know it's panic, it's the end of the game, getting rid of it, but he needs to be more calm in those situations. But that's the young player in him. An assist, finally a corner. Someone can actually deliver a corner, beats the first man. Great corner from Greenwood for Cooper's goal. And an incredible goal himself. An absolute world-class goal. And we've seen him do these for the under-23s last season, the under-21s this season. He has this in his locker, and it's great to see it finally coming out. And Crescencio Somerville as well just really is starting to find his feet at the Premier League level. He looks very, very dangerous on the ball. And I'm going to say something, because I've said I will be balanced and I will be fair. I have criticised Somerville's work ethic off the ball. There was a moment in the second half where Bournemouth, is it second half or first half? First half, where Bournemouth get a counter-attack and Somerville runs the entire half of the pitch to get back and cover, makes an excellent tackle which forces the ball to be knocked forward and gives Ilya Melli time to come out and also make another excellent tackle and leads. And then Somerville wins the next ball straight back after that, battles for that one as well. So he's adding the bits to the game that he needs to add. The work ethic off the ball, the battling the heart, that kind of stuff is now there. The skill on the ball is undoubtable, and he's got goals. He has got goals in his locker. And his best mate, Willie Gnonto, looked brilliant when he came on. To get a player to be that aggressive on the ball, every time Willie got the ball, it was head for goal, head forward, running people. His close control is excellent. He looks better in the Premier League than he did in the under-21 team, if that makes any sense. If you've watched both teams, you'll know what I mean. The little bit of extra space he get in the Premier League has allowed him to make those runs, and he looked great. He looked fantastic. But yeah, to finish the game with Greenwood, Gelhardt, Somerville and Willie Gnonto all on the pitch and all really reasonably responsible for us getting back into that game is a massive, massive deal. And this is where the Victor Orta balance needs to come on. If we're going to criticise Victor Orta for JKA and for other mistakes that he has made, and he has made mistakes, he has. There's no doubt. I'm not hiding from his mistakes. Victor Orta has made mistakes. He has been big enough and bold enough to come out yesterday evening and apologise for one mistake. Just relax, Victor. Just relax. But if we're going to balance this out, then you've got to look at it. Greenwood, Gelhardt, Somerville, Gnonto are all part of Victor Orta's youth idea, his transferring system for the youth players. He also has the same with Sonny Perkins. We're looking at George Hall now. There's a consistency to these players that are there. These are all players that are in the squad that we're all looking to play in the starting 11. They're all players that have come in through Victor Orta's system and how he brings players in. And he has made massive mistakes on the higher end of it. Maybe he's not a director of football that can sign the bigger players. Maybe he's a director of football that signs the smaller players. Maybe that's what it is. All I would say in this is, if I was talking to Victor Orta now, I would tell him just to calm down. This shouldn't ever be us versus you. This shouldn't be that way. This should be all of us together. You know, you're in a position of power. People are going to criticise mistakes that you made, especially when they damage the club that the fans love. And remember, the fans have been here longer than Victor Orta has been here, and will be here long after Victor Orta and Radrazani and Kinnear have gone. There have been some positives that he's done. There have been some negatives that he's done. There have been some highs and there have been some stupid lows. There have been some stupid moments. But you can't turn around when he's given it all this middle of last season when it was going, well, start of last season, it was going reasonably well, and saying Victor Orta gets it, he gets what it is to be Leeds, and then criticise the guy for doing the exact same thing, but when he's getting stick at him. And I would have reacted the same way if I got the amount of stick that he was getting, especially the phone call stuff, giving out his phone number. It's not cool. Not cool. Not cool at all. I would have waited for my moment. I would have reacted. I might not have done the same way he's done it, but I would have reacted to it. Absolutely would have reacted to it. That's a huge amount of unnecessary abuse being put at somebody. He deserves it in the stadium. And if people can get a chance to talk to him in the street, talk to him like a person and tell him you've got it wrong on several occasions and stop leaving gaps in the team. Buy a striker, buy a left back. Last season, buy a centre midfielder. If there's an obvious gap there, fill it. Then everyone will relax and back off you and you can do your job and everyone will be okay. So there's a lot of little bits there. But for me, I think the call for him to be sacked by some people is a massive, massive, massive overreaction for something that's really... I'm not a big fan of cancel culture. People make mistakes. People say stupid things. If it's not, unless it's very racist or very homophobic or very, very high-end scale of abuse, I don't believe that. I think what he's done is reacted to abuse that he's gotten and apologised for. So, for me, we move on. We move on from it. But overall, I think it's been a weird 2 weeks, I think it's fair to say. 6 points from the last two games puts us in 12th in the league. Win a game in hand puts us 11th. Nice and steady, 4-point gap to the bottom three. It's very tight. The table is from, let's say, 7th down. Very, very, very tight. And we've got pretty much Wolverhampton during the week, and then we've got Wolverhampton next, and then we've got Spurs, which is probably a free hit, to be honest. any kind of result against them will be a huge positive result going into the World Cup break. And then we'll see what happens. Then we'll see if all these transfers that have been linked will actually happen. If Leeds get on the front foot and do it early, we'll see. But yeah, positive weekend in terms of the result and the score and where we are in the league table versus where we were 2 weeks ago. So, as always, trying to keep them balanced. And again, just to say, I'm not backing up Victor Orta here. I have been highly critical of him at times. I am very critical of the entire board. I blame them for most of our problems in this scenario. I don't think it was that bad. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Keep it respectful. Please don't be abusing people. I don't like it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Please. All right. If you're that way inclined. If you're not, if you're regulars who comment, love to hear your opinions on it. Let's keep this balanced and keep this fair if we can. And I will be back in the more news. I'll talk to you then. Bye.